Hey everybody, Steve the Amateur Historian here with you, just heading out for the day, and I'm going to do a video for you that I've been wanting to do but I've been kind of holding off on. It's warm but it's blustery. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm going to be passing through Clackamas Town Center, and I'm going to do a video about a very serious event that happened there a couple years back. That being the December 11th shooting that occurred there. Now, a lot of people forget that there was a shooting that happened at Clackamas Town Center, namely because I believe only like 2 or 3 days later is when Sandy Hook happened. And there were 2 fatalities and 1 injured in the Clackamas Town Center shooting. There were, I believe, 27 killed at Sandy Hook, so you can see the difference, especially considering the fact that Sandy Hook was predominantly children. The perpetrator was a 22-year-old named Jacob Roberts, who apparently at that phase in his life, he didn't have a great upbringing, as unfortunately a lot of these school shooters do. They either have a bad upbringing or they have an upbringing that's just not in sync with who they are. Like Kip Kinkle, he actually had 2 fairly, caring, well-to-do parents, but he wasn't them. Roberts had recently gone through a breakup. He wanted to go into the Marines, but ended up having to abandon that when he broke his foot. He had just quit his job. He apparently reported to people that he was going to be moving away to Hawaii to try to sort out his life. And then next thing you know, he's dead on the first floor of Clackamas Town Center.
Another shooting, another safe part of American life shattered by violence. A photograph was released today of 22-year-old Jake Roberts. He worked at a deli outside Portland, Oregon. Police say this is the person who opened fire on holiday shoppers at a mall, firing at families in the food court. He killed 2 people and then himself.
Police say Roberts made a beeline from his car in the parking lot through Macy's, carrying an AR-15 semi-automatic assault rifle. He wore a ballistics vest packed with ammo and a hockey-style face mask. He entered the mall on the upper level. By the time he got to the food court, he was already firing, killing Cindy Ann Ewell and Stephen Forsyth. He shot down into the lower-level courtyard, too, hitting Christina Shevchenko, now in the hospital. Then his gun jammed. Police say Roberts bolted down a flight of stairs, got his rifle working again, and killed himself near J.C. Penney's.
And we have arrived at Clackamas Town Center. And according to all records, Roberts parked on the southern end of the complex, which is what's directly in front of me. That's north. This is south. As I am now approaching the mall, I will be entering through the same entrance that Roberts used. Again, he parked his car somewhere in that area. And he walked in this direction towards one of the entrances to the mall. I'm literally going to walk based on news articles, reports, everything I've been able to get my hands on. I'm going to essentially walk the route in the mall that Roberts walked. And then later, provide commentary. I'm going to record commentary for it because I've tried actually videoing things here a couple times and they're very stringent about not videoing in the mall. So I'm going to be very stealthy about it. So to catch the video now, give you the deets after I get the video done. Here we go. So I was a little confused about where Roberts had entered. A lot of sources said he entered through one of the main entryways to the mall, but there isn't a main entryway into Macy's. There's just a Macy's entry. So obviously he entered on the first floor, walked through Macy's to here. Now you're out in the main
hallway that goes from one end to another. And directly across from here is where the food court is located. So it was a beeline into Macy's on the first floor, presumably up the escalator since the food court's on the second floor. He would have had to circle around this little in-between space here in order to get to the food court area, which during my visit, this was fairly early in the day, so you can see there's not a lot of people there, but 2 weeks before Christmas, this place was probably pretty hopping. And it was about it was during the 3 o'clock hour when the shooting occurred. So, again, here you see it's pretty empty, but there were a lot of people here. You can see the Century Theater entrance in the background. That was a 20-screen theater, probably a few hundred people there. It was pretty hopping, and people probably spread. This is where the main bulk of the shooting took place. But then his gun locked up, and Roberts fled from the edge of the food court area, and he would have gone down this hallway. You are now traveling east, essentially. And he ran down this hallway all the way past the other Macy's store. Now, there's two of them, which can be confusing. The one he entered through is the one that was more the cosmetics, clothing one. Here you see the home furniture one. And he presumably exited through these doors that you're seeing ahead right here. And I know that because it says he exited through a door right next to the Forever 21 store, which is a pretty big complex in there. And those are the only doors I saw like that in the area.
Now, certain details are hard to totally clarify. He's referenced in reports of running by stores that are no longer here, going through doors of places that are no longer, because it's a mall, and this was 4.5 years ago. Places come and go. But it was referenced that he snuck out a door to like an employees only region that was right next to Forever 21. So that's why I assume he went through that group of doors, which would have led him in this area, which actually makes a lot of sense because they say it was like a storage, trash, recycling type area. And that's in essence what this area is. You have a trash compactor here. You have places for trucks to back into. I don't know if he officially made it outside, but if he didn't, he was obviously in an employee area that I can't go into. And if he was still inside, he was, right inside these walls. See, there's more compactors, recycling. There was actually an employee who was taking out recycling who had an encounter with him, and fortunately Roberts didn't shoot him. You got an employee door right there that goes into JCPenney's. Roberts was somewhere in this vicinity after his gun jammed, and he decided to run for it.
And he apparently ran back inside the main mall area after he fled through those doors. He apparently again had an encounter with an employee, panicked, turned, and went back inside. And by all accounts, he entered, presumably on the first door. You can see an exit door there off to the left. And right here, right by the JCPenney's, is where he turned his gun on himself and shot himself and landed right here.
And it's incredibly fortunate that Roberts' gun jammed, because it was 2 weeks before Christmas. There was reportedly over 10,000 people in the mall. He ended up only, I hate using that term, only killing 2 people, because that's 2 families that were forever changed by the deaths of loved ones. But on the flip side, it could have and probably should have been so much more if Roberts knew what he was doing. Apparently he stole the gun he used, which leads people to believe that maybe he didn't really know how to operate it that well. And then when it jammed, he ran, and then he probably panicked, figured, I don't know what I'm doing. The moment maybe became too real for him. Thought, I'm busted. Let's just end it. And like so many mass shooting incidences, he took his own life. And one more thing before I go. The shooting here happened December 11th, 2012. I actually produced a film, shot it during late summer of 2013, wrote it during the spring. And it was in part inspired by what happened here. It was in part inspired by a breakup I went to, but essentially followed the storyline of a young man whose fiance dies in a mall shooting, much like what happened here at Clackamas. And it's called The Runner. You can find it on YouTube. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep it up there, but if you go to the channel Silly Sister Pictures, 3 different words, and type in The Runner, you'll be able to find it. And it follows a guy who, the only way he can cope with the loss of his fiance is to run obsessively. It's like his drug, his medication is what keeps him alive, essentially. And yeah, it was entirely, the whole concept of losing a loved one in a shooting was entirely inspired by what happened here at Clackamas, because I started writing it only 2 months later. So, you know, this gets forgotten because of the low number of casualties, because Sandy Hook happened, you know, 2-3 days later. But if you live in this area, you know, people don't forget. People still remember. People get shaky and nervous coming here during Christmas time now. I do too. I actually came here last December. It was the same day, December 11th of 2016. I came here with my girlfriend, and we were legitimately a little tense. We didn't know what to expect. So, around here, the Portland area, the memory of that lives on. And all that said, guys, that's it. This has been Steve the Amateur Historian, and I'll see you next time.